Hey guys, welcome to the Daily Word Bible Study, a plain and simple book by book, chapter by chapter, and verse by verse study through the entire Bible. Currently, we are in the Gospel of John, chapter 14. Last time we did a brief study about the rapture of the church, and I tied that to this uh, promise that Jesus is making to the disciples and then ultimately us, that he is going away to prepare a place for us. And then he says, and he will come and receive us to himself. That is rapture talk. Okay. So let's get back, because as I said before, I was so tempted to get more in detail. And now I'm stirred up. I probably would do another video more in depth about the rapture. All right. So here we go. John 14. And I'll start back at verse 1 to bring us up to speed. He says, your heart must not be troubled. Believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many dwelling places. If not, I would have told you, I am going away to prepare a place for you. And if I go away to prepare a place for you, I will come back and receive you to myself, so that where I am, you may be also. So just I want you to absorb the promise that Jesus made to us. Now he's talking to the apostles, but remember, everything that he taught the apostles, everything is meant for the entire church throughout all of the ages, all generations. And which is why we have this written down here. So this is a promise to us, that he is promising us that he is going to come back. Now we got into last time too that it's going to take place in kind of in two perspectives. One, those who have already died, he's going, they're with the Lord. The Bible says to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. And this is where the term resurrection comes in, because the term resurrection is body stand. That the promise that we're going to get a glorified body like unto Jesus' body. Okay. And so this promise here that Jesus is going to come back and receive us to himself. All right. So let me move on. Verse 4 says, you know the way to where I am going. All right. So he makes this statement right here. You know the way where I'm going. He says, I'm going to prepare a place for you. He says, and you know the way to where I am going. Lord, Thomas said, we don't know where you're going. How can we know the way? Jesus told him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Okay, so I would dare to say most Christians, especially Bible talk Christians, know this statement. I am the way, the truth, and the life. In other words, no one comes to the Father except through me. Now, this is important because there is no salvation apart from Jesus. There are, some celebrities, and I don't take celebrities' philosophies serious. Some people get all bent out of shape when they do. I remember when Oprah said that it's impossible that there's only one way to God, and when she makes a statement, but understand that here you have a person who is a very successful person, and so the pride in their accomplishment, that's why they will make these kind of statements, and they kind of lash out against I'm going to say the traditional faith as they was taught. My question to people is that what other deity, what other pagan has talked about a way to God? So when you stop and you think about, and this is why too the statement, it's all different. This is the humanist perspective, that all the religions are just different ways to God, which is one of the most stupidest things that is said. Because if you listen to each religion, they certainly are not pointing to the same God. They are certainly not pointing that different ways are leading to God. So in other words, if I was to say to you, there are many roads that could lead to Washington, D.C., right, to the Capitol. And there are many roads. You can travel a lot of roads, highways, and they all will get you to Washington, D.C. That is not what Jesus is saying here. And the reason why is because, first and foremost, in order to get to the Father, you have to go the way of salvation. So all of the other religions are not telling you that you need to be saved. So how can they tell you that you're going to really virtually use the same way to get to God? So the answer is no, they're not, okay? And so Jesus is the only one who died for our sins. Jesus is the only one who came and declared the truth about the nature of man. And if there are thoughts, ideologies that will say man is good, intrinsically good, but show me where that is. And keep in mind, people who live in America, especially, who live in nations that are affected by Christianity, and let me just tell you something. Through the law that God has given, the world has been affected. So the sense of right and wrong, okay, everybody kind of, even if they, violated, they pretty much, like people will know murder is wrong, stealing is wrong, things like that. But Jesus is the only one that says, I'm going to go and prepare the way to God by what? Dying for man's sins. So in other words, so all other religions that would even claim, which I don't see any claim, how would they claim to change a man? And this is why Christianity is the only one that changes people, even the worst sinners. So I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through me. This is, if you know me, you will also know my Father. From now on, you do know him and have seen him. So now, notice the two kind of, watch this. So Thomas says, we don't know which way you're going, Jesus. Okay, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. Now he says, if you know me, you will know my Father, and now you have seen him. Lord, Philip says, show us the Father, and that's enough for us. Jesus said to him, have I been so long with, have I been among you all this time without you knowing me, Philip? So this just seemed to be, we have a disadvantage of not seeing facial, right, expressions, or right, to hear the inflection, right? But I'm picturing Jesus saying, what? Have I been among you all this time without you knowing me, Philip? The one who has seen me has seen the Father. How can you say, show us the Father? Now, remember in the beginning of John, Jesus said, well, in verse 18, he said, no one has seen the Father, but the one and only Son. Well, let me show you this right here. Let's kind of go back. It's kind of worth seeing this here. Verse 18, he says, no one has seen the Father. I'm sorry, no one has seen God, the one and only Son, the one who is at the Father's side. He has revealed him. And so you remember the whole purpose of in this first verse here, when it said in the beginning was the Word, that the term word it's the expression. It's to capture a thought. It's the expression. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And then he was with God in the beginning. All things were created through him, and apart from him, not anything that was created that had been created. Life within him, and that life was the light of men. And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it, meaning the Word. Now, the reason why John uses this term Word is that, again, it's it. You go all the way back into eternity past, as far as it is possible to travel back, you would run into God. So you would pass the creation of the universe, creation itself, anything, matter, time, all that stuff that formed the universe, all of that, you go past all of that, you would run into God. And then what he's saying is that what you would run into is the Word, because the Word captures God. It captures the image of God. All right. So now we come down to verse 14 when he says, the Word became flesh and took up residency among us. We observed his glory, the glory as of the one and only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth. So now he comes and he, Jesus in his life now is, let me go back here. In his life, right, 33 years and 3.5 years of public ministry, he reveals the Father in him. So watch what he says. And this is kind of like a rebuke to Peter, because then, I'm sorry, to Philip. In other words, you should know this. Have I been so long time with you, verse 9, have I been among you all this time without you knowing me, Philip? The one who has seen me has seen the Father. How can you say, show us the Father? He says, don't you believe that I am in the Father and the Father is in me? The words I speak to you, I do not speak on my own. The Father who lives in me does the work. Believe me that I'm in the Father and the Father is in me. Otherwise, believe believe because of the works themselves. Okay, so it kind of like, Philip, you should know this. All of the works that Jesus did demonstrated and proved he is God manifested in the flesh. Okay? So now he says, I assure you, the one who believes in me and I assure you, the one who believes in me will also do the works that I do, and he will do even greater works than these, because I am going to my Father. Whatever you ask in my name, I will do it so that the Father may be glorified in the Son. If you ask anything in my name, I will do it. Okay. Now, let's kind of unpack this, because first and foremost, Jesus said that the one who believes in me would do works, and then he says greater works. Okay, so we haven't seen that, right? In other words, and here's my point. We see this, let's kind of understand what Jesus is saying. So first of all, he says works, do the work. So what works is he referring to? Well, the works would be what? The signs, the wonders, the preaching. Okay. So when he says the one who believes in me will do greater works. Now, is that speaking individually? Because I haven't done any works. Most Christians haven't done supernatural works. So then what is Jesus referring to here? Well, I do believe that there are those that God, as he chooses, as he sees fit, will do the works, will do miracles, will do signs and wonders. Now, we see that in the book of Acts, that the works that Peter and John did was so astounding to the people, they said, these guys been with Jesus. Okay? So like I say, if you if God doesn't grant you the ability to do these works, you don't have it anyway. Okay? So I think certainly collectively the body of Christ, and notice he says, because I'm going to the Father. Now, we're going to see this later as we get into, again, verse 15, that when he says that I go to the Father, he's going to say that it's imperative that I go to the Father. And the reason why is because, keep this in mind, when Jesus was here, he had, as God in the flesh, limited himself to space and time. So right now, for example, as we're reading this in this time, if you wanted to see Jesus, you had to go to Israel. And then for specifically at this time during the Last Supper, you had to go to Jerusalem if you wanted to see Jesus. Now, if you remember back in chapter 12, right, the Greeks had traveled to what? To see Jesus. That's how you had to see him there. You had to go to where he was at in order to see Jesus. So people in South America never saw Jesus. People in the Americas never saw Jesus. People in the vast of Africa continent never saw Jesus. Australia never saw Jesus. In Asia never saw Jesus. People in the Roman Empire never saw Jesus other than those who came to Jerusalem. Okay. So now what he is saying is that I'm going to the Father. And what that means is when he goes, there's going to be a multiplication. And we're going to see that later. But it's going to be a multiplication. Christians are going to pop up. So now he says, whatever you ask in my name, I will do it so that the Father may be glorified in the Son. If you ask anything in my name, I will do it. And so we see these, again, promises. And again, I think we have to kind of understand, well, what does he mean? So let's, verse 13, whatever you ask in my name, notice he says, I will do it so that the Father may be glorified in the Son. And then he says, if you ask anything in my name, then I will do it. Okay, you have to understand a context with this. Because people have asked and have not. That prayer did not get answered. And also understand that sometimes, now let me give you an illustration. Let's say I am a CEO and I got a multi-billion-dollar company. If I want to fantasize here, let's go big. So I got a company, so now I want to hire a person that's going to be my right hand. And I'm going to say, I want you to be my right hand. You're going to oversee operations, make sure everything's going right. Okay. I'm going to negotiate your salary. Here are all the perks. Then I take you to the office. Here's your office. And then what do I say? I may say this once I get you to the office. Okay, this is your job. Then I'm going to say, hey, whatever you need, order it. If it's new furniture, whatever you need, just ask me and I'll get it for you. Now, obviously, it wouldn't necessarily go down this way, but that's for the context here. Do you think that person would say, well, you know what? I'll tell you what, since you told me whatever I ask, maybe can you get me the a villa in Switzerland? You know, can you, I want a villa on every continent, right? Now, he may look at me strange, but more than that, he would know not to ask a question like that. But he may say, new furniture. He may say, do it. He may even say, you know what? Let's get a company jet because I'm going to be traveling around. This is a multi-billion-dollar company. Okay, a new jet. In other words, he's asking in the context of him doing his job. That's the point. He's asking in the context of him doing his job. And the wording here, as Jesus is saying that, in verse 13, whatever you ask in my name, notice, I will do it, so that the Father may be glorified in the Son. So that's the thing right there. If you ask anything in my name, I will do it. Now I'm going to pick this up next time and kind of go on with this thought. To go on with this thought. Alrighty. Alright, don't forget to like and share this video and subscribe to BP the Bible Perspective. And as always, if you have a thought, a comment, add it to the comment section below. All comments are welcome, and I'll see you in the next study.